There is something deeply unsettling about a grave that was designed to be unreachable, and yet somehow wasn't, because the moment those images hit the internet, the entire illusion shattered, and suddenly the question wasn't what we were looking at, it was how anyone got there in the first place.
It's ghoulish. That's the only word that can explain Prince Harry and Meghan Markle sharing a private picture of their so-called private children, Archie and Lily, on their so-called private vigil to lay flowers at Princess Diana's grave for the first time.
Now that's Meghan and Lily, and I've taken the view for a long time that Meghan sees Lily as hers and Archie as Harry's.
That's like what's actually out in the world because of people creating hate. It's not just a tabloid. It's not just some story. You are making me scared.
I would now use Charles Spencer's words directly to describe the acts of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. You too are insane and ghoulish. You too have no respect for Princess Diana's resting place. And also all of us who have to put up with your constant briefings about privacy. And then you post the most intimate photos that we have never seen of members of the royal family unless they've been taken by paparazzi. Like, no, we don't want to see Meghan's ass cheeks, okay, while she's watching her children in the water. Please.
That lake was never decorative. That island was never symbolic. Charles Spencer didn't remove that bridge for aesthetics. He removed it to create distance, to build a barrier, to enforce silence, water as protection, mud as defense, a fortress disguised as grief. And yet, last Thursday, 11 images quietly appeared, slipping into public view like they had every right to exist there. But they didn't. Not without permission, not without access, not without someone opening a door that was never meant to open.
It's just terrible. They are so full of nastiness and getting their own feelings back on everybody. They don't care.
And buried inside those images almost casually, almost like an afterthought, was a frame that refuses to sit still in your mind. A man, two very small children, walking away from us, not toward us. Flowers in their arms, silence in their footsteps. Harry carrying something heavier than it looks. The little boy copying him. And somehow, the more you look at it, the less it feels like a simple family moment, and the more it feels like evidence. Evidence of presence, evidence of access, evidence that something private had been crossed.
I just don't understand how Harry could want to do this. This is for his mother, who he loves, so he says, and to turn it into a show is just beyond anything. And it's amongst all sorts of things that they've done in what they call their summer holiday, because I don't know what they're doing. Not a face do you see, not a face of these little ones. They're always back to the camera, and you just think, what are they doing? They're 5, 7. I mean, it's just disgusting.
Because let's not pretend this is complicated. Somebody had to get them there. Somebody had to approve it. Somebody had to allow a camera, any camera, onto ground that has been protected for decades. And yet Charles Spencer says nothing. Not a word, not a denial, not a confirmation. Just silence stretching across 6 full days while the world tears itself apart trying to fill in the blanks. And silence in a story like this is never empty. It is loud. It is deliberate. It is doing work.
Meghan does not show the children's faces, and so that therefore this is somehow their privacy is being protected. It's completely absurd, frankly, because what Meghan is doing by not showing the faces, or by revealing them very slowly, by revealing side portions or half portions, is feeding what marketers call a curiosity gap.
But I do think the timing is just odd. You know, it was dropped on a Thursday. Prince George's birthday was on Wednesday. On Thursday, people were still talking about the photos and still talking about Prince George's future when Meghan decides that's the appropriate day to drop photos of her children. So it is a little odd. It's a little just thirsty, Back to me. I need the attention. Come on.
And just when you think the situation couldn't get more calculated, another detail slips in like a quiet warning. A number, 6 figures. That's what one photograph of Meghan and those children on British soil could command. Not speculation, not exaggeration. A straight answer from someone who knows exactly how this game is played. 6 figures. And suddenly the absence of pictures during the trip becomes deafening.
Charles, you are a legend of Fleet Street. Can you give us a ballpark figure of the value of a photograph of Meghan and the kids back in the UK? What would that go for?
Oh, 6 figures without a shot. That's
Wow.
Megan's got her cell phone ready to go.
Yeah, but I mean, if you remember when Fergie, the former Duchess of York, got caught having her toes sucked in Saint-Tropez, those pictures went for £1 million. So you're talking about that sort of level.
Wow.
You're talking about that sort of level of payment, and it depends, you know, in the circumstances of how the pictures were taken.
Because for an entire visit, every mile, every stop, every moment, the British press got nothing. No blurry shots, no distant lenses, no accidental captures, absolute control, a level of precision that quietly dismantles years of claims about being constantly hunted. Because if they could move like that once, they could always move like that. Privacy wasn't impossible, it was optional.
A total betrayal, having promised King Charles that their UK return would be private and discreet. The Sussexes have proved once again that they cannot be trusted. You cannot do business with these people. Now, it's my understanding that King Charles was very clear about the ground rules for the Highgrove House gathering, which I'm told was barely an hour in length. And the rules were very clear. No photos, no publicity, no interviews. Good luck with that.
And then, just like that, the same privacy is broken, not by outsiders, not by photographers, not by intrusion, but from within. A deliberate release, a chosen moment, a calculated drop onto Instagram that hands the entire narrative back to the public for free.
So Meghan couldn't resist, could she? She just couldn't help herself, bending the rules with a huge photo drop on her Instagram, publicizing her UK return. She had to show off. She had to flex her muscles. She had to send a very clear message. I am back. I'm the Duchess with a capital D, and I'm an English royal princess all over again. And this is just the beginning.
And that's where the story twists, because nobody gives away something that valuable without expecting something in return. Not money, not this time. Something else, something bigger, a message, a signal, a repositioning. And whatever that message was, it had nothing to do with summer, nothing to do with family bonding, nothing to do with innocence. It was strategic. And right in the middle of it all stands Charles Spencer, suddenly painted as a bystander in his own territory. But that doesn't hold. It never holds. This is a man who turned that island into a fortress for 29 years, who refused Netflix, who rejected the crown, who has defended that space against intrusion again and again. 4 separate attempts to reach that grave. 4 times he shut it down. This is not a man who overlooks details. So when the gates opened in July, when the visit happened, when the rule no cameras was allegedly laid down, something doesn't add up. Because no cameras doesn't mean no phone. No cameras doesn't mean no image. And somehow a phone crossed that water. And now we are left with 2 versions of reality, both equally uncomfortable. Either permission was given and everything that followed spiraled beyond control, or permission was never given at all, and something slipped through anyway. And if that's the case, then the silence isn't just confusion, it's containment. And the moment that question lands, who held the phone, the entire narrative begins to unravel in a way that nobody wants to confront, because it forces us to stop blaming the surface and start examining the structure underneath it. Harry knew that ground. Harry knew the rules. Harry wrote about that very bridge, that very removal, that very intention to keep people out, to preserve something untouched. That wasn't distant history to Harry, that was personal knowledge, printed, sold, repeated, which makes what happened next feel less like an accident and more like a decision that cannot be explained away, because there is a precedent, and it is sitting there quietly, almost forgotten, refusing to be ignored. On the 1st of July 2017, a private service was held at that exact graveside. William was there, Catherine was there, Harry was there, 2 of the Wales children were there, the Archbishop of Canterbury was there, and not a single photograph emerged. Not one frame leaked, not one image slipped through, not one carefully curated moment found its way into the public domain. Absolute privacy. absolute agreement, absolute respect, and everyone present understood the assignment without needing it spelled out. So what changed? That is the question that keeps circling back, sharper each time, because 9 years later, the same ground, the same path, the same history suddenly becomes content, public, distributed, consumed, and the explanation that this is just about emotion or tribute or remembrance, it doesn't hold under pressure. It fractures the moment you compare the two moments side by side, one preserved in silence, the other released by Thursday tea time. And then comes the contradiction that is almost impossible to ignore. Years of insisting that privacy was everything. Years of arguments, of legal battles, of statements about protection and boundaries and safety. And yet, when complete privacy was finally achieved perfectly, flawlessly, without intrusion, it was not kept. It was opened, shared, broadcast, which flips the entire narrative on its head because it suggests that privacy was never the goal. Control was. And suddenly, every detail starts lining up in a way that feels far too precise to be coincidence. The timing, the release, the absence of Meghan in that particular frame, the presence of Harry carrying flowers, the children mirroring the gesture, the deliberate composition of something that looks spontaneous but behaves like a message, because that is exactly how this works. When it is done properly, you don't speak, you show. You don't explain, you imply. And you let everyone else do the arguing for you while the image does the work. But there is something even more uncomfortable sitting underneath all of this. Something that has barely been touched because it complicates the outrage. Diana understood this system better than anyone. Diana used the camera as leverage, as influence, as strategy when every other door was closed. That wasn't theory, that was history. And it worked so effectively that decades later, the same method still carries weight, which means what we are seeing now isn't a break from tradition. It is an evolution of it. And that is exactly why this has rattled William in a way that cannot be easily dismissed. Because this is not just about a photograph, or a location, or even a boundary. This is about a method being repeated. A method that William witnessed from the inside, understood the cost of, and then spent years deliberately rejecting, only to now watch it reappear, redirected, reframed, and pointed straight back into the family itself. And just when the situation feels like it cannot tighten any further, two dates slide into place with almost surgical precision. The Prince and Princess of Wales release a portrait of Prince George for a birthday. Ordinary, expected, controlled, and then one day later, 11 images appear from Montecito. 11, not one, not two, a full set, which turns the timing into something that demands attention because it is no longer accidental, it is adjacent. And yet, the strangest detail of all is not in the images themselves, but in what surrounded them. Because that same period had already been described elsewhere as chaotic, difficult, fractured, statements issued, narratives of tension, accounts of separation. And then 3 weeks later, the exact same time frame is presented as idyllic, calm, joyful, two completely different realities built from the same stretch of time. And once you notice that contradiction, you cannot unsee it. Which brings everything back to Charles Spencer, still silent, still unmoved, still holding the one piece of clarity that could collapse the entire storm with a single sentence. Because if Charles Spencer approved it, then there was no breach, no intrusion, no scandal, just permission followed by reaction. But if Charles Spencer did not approve it, then something far more serious happened. Something that explains the silence not as confusion, but as calculation. And that leaves only two versions standing. Either Charles Spencer said yes and cannot now say it out loud without owning what followed, or Charles Spencer said no and discovered the images at the same time as everyone else. Both versions carry consequences. Both versions explain the silence. But neither answers the question that refuses to disappear. Because after 6 days, after endless coverage, after debates about taste and timing and intent, nobody, absolutely nobody, has identified the person behind the camera. Not a name, not a leak, not a hint. And in a story this exposed, that absence is not normal. It is deliberate. It is protected. It is the final missing piece that keeps everything suspended in uncertainty.